Chapter 1. Strengthening Your Mental Attitude According to Napoleon Hill. A positive mental attitude is a philosophy which asserts that the approach of situations with optimistic disposition attracts positive change and increases chances of succeeding. Just as it is necessary to work hard and smart, is equally as important to approach every situation with an optimistic attitude plus a highly strategic approach to increase chances of achieving a given goal with desirable results. For this reason, there is a need for a person with curiosity and determination must exhibit a strong and highly intelligent mental attitude. As we are all aware, a sheer hard work without creative imagination may complicate performance and demotivate a person and ultimately bring undesirable results. Similarly, however, positive-minded an individual is, a degree of intelligence is essential, especially in challenging moments. Both cognitive intelligence and emotional intelligence must be harnessed sufficiently so as to devise creative ways of finding a way around difficult situations. Intelligence complements the will and inner desire to accomplish a goal. Intelligence is merely a plus, but mental toughness and commitment are mandatory. Therefore, it is important to have a strong and intelligent mental attitude in the quest for accomplishment and self-improvement. But how do you just get to acquire this invaluable habit? The following are a few techniques to put you on course to getting mentally tough. Be emotionally stable at all times. Embrace change when it is clearly inevitable. Keep your troubles in proper perspective. Do not take things personally. Have resilience in the face of adversity. Prepare for challenges. Pay more attention on long-term outcomes. Learn to move on when you must. Just do what is right with little concern about others have to say, and defend what you stand for. Be patient. Do not expect instant results for what you do. Always be in control of your emotions and actions. Accept the things you cannot change. Accept failure and learn from it. Remain positive even when the surrounding is fraught with negativity. Be content with what you have achieved and what you expect to accomplish in future. Never give up. Do not switch lanes unnecessarily. Be true to your course. Aim high. Exercise your mind constantly. Universally, the greatest leadership test appears in the face of enormous adversity. The response, actions, and emotional state bring to light the toughness and intelligence of the leader's mental attitude. A shaky, indecisive, and highly subjective response shows a weak and unintelligent mental attitude. On the other hand, a calm, decisive, objective, and creative approach to such challenging situations is a true portrayal of sheer strong and intelligent mental attitude. Also, what happens to us contributes very little towards our happiness and quest for success, but our response to what happens contributes immensely towards our happiness and success. Therefore, it is imperative to prepare adequately for tomorrow's God knows what by adopting a life of good habits of a positive attitude. Emotional stability. Every individual faces a moment in which they have to make crucial decisions under immense pressure. An emotionally stable mind enables you to make sound judgments objectively and guarantee favorable outcomes in spite of the challenges that you are facing. Amazingly, you find it soothingly convenient to act normally even when obstacles appear constantly on the road to success. People suffer losses of their loved ones. Many more lose property and valuable items through natural disasters and malicious damage by others. Some have to endure heartbreaking relationship issues. Others have to deal with devastating disease plagues that lead to health deterioration. Regardless of challenges and painful experiences that people have to face, it is normal to expect them to lead lives with a positive attitude. They have no reason to give up because anyone who has the ability to breathe always has something to offer. Even physically incapacitated person, a bed-ridden patient, may still find a way to make something out of their life. Even though they cannot perform normal activities as before, they do have a chance to inspire others with the mental with which they face their ordeal. They can still be examples of optimism, hope, and inspiration despite their challenging circumstances. Constantly handling situations with rare emotional strength toughens your mental attitude and positions you firmly to handle even more challenging situations. It strengthens your mind to believe that all troubling situations are just like any other normal task and view all of them with the same eye. It is a sign of great mental strength and a positive way to take an individual through some of the most unbearable moments in life. A strong mental attitude helps you keep challenges in proper perspective without deviating from your cause. Readiness for change. It is commonly believed that a person who has the ability to hold on to beliefs and values has a strong mental attitude. This may be true, but there are situations when such kind of behavior shows rigidity of mind and inability to embrace change. Being flexible and adaptable to a constantly changing environment mostly indicate positive mental attitude, which is a necessary trait for personal growth. There is no need to hold on to practices, methods, and strategies that have become obsolete or largely ineffective when other, more effective techniques are available. It is similarly unwise to continue handling a given task the same way when prevailing conditions and operating environment have dramatically taken a new twist. It is important to adapt to the changing environment by adopting new strategies and approaches when the landscape changes, or a process requires readjustment. It takes courage and mental strength to embrace new ideas and actually implement them. Learn from failures. Failure, in most cases, is a source of embarrassment and disappointment, not only to the person but also in the face of the larger society. The negativity that stems from failure detrimentally impacts on a person's self-confidence and self-belief. It may result in negative self-talk and unavoidable doubt in one's abilities and strength. A person with a strong mental attitude is capable of drawing useful lessons from failures and inspiration from challenging situations. They are able to endure moments of turbulent situations with zeal to accomplish the ultimate goal. They must have the conviction to try until they eventually get things right. These are people who do not give up in spite of the apparent mental torture that accompanies failure. Strong mental attitude is acquired through repeated endurance of unbearable emotional and mental burdens. It is then sustained through habitual self-testing undertakings, through voluntary mind-exercising activities which involve a deliberate decision to take on a difficult challenge with the aim of pursuing it to the end. Apply self-validation, perhaps. You have been hesitant and indecisive as a child to bring your rusty, emaciated friend home because your parents would never approve of your friendship with such a dirty and miserable child. You know that is harsh, immoral of your parents, but you do not wish to fall short of their expectations, so you opt to keep inviting some idiots of your class into your lavish home just to impress your parents with perfect company that you are keeping. That is even worse than your parents' attitude towards the less fortunate because your conscience does not approve of it. Mentally strong and intelligent persons listen more to their hearts more than they listen to other people. They obey their conscience and always seek to do what is right and are ever ready to defend their stand regardless of backlash from opposing forces. They think independently and are strictly open to useful advice only. They do not live according to other people's standards, but individually set their own standards in life. People who are mentally strong and intelligent heavily rely on their own emotions, values, and optimistic dispositions to undertake life's crucial pursuits. They do not look at others with disdain. They are open to constructive criticism and new ways of thinking. They do not lock doors to other people, but selectively embrace what they cognitively consider to be useful. Besides, they utilize their emotional intelligence to convince others they matter in spite of the apparent sense of reason, perception of life, and chosen paths for self-fulfillment. To grow a strong and intelligent mental attitude, It is mandatory to practice the concept of self-validation that helps you to focus solely on pursuing success with a clean conscience instead of bowing down to external pressure only to regret your actions later. You should figure out a smart way to politely convince others of the likely positive results of your cause so as to maintain good relations with others. Remain in control. I'm pretty sure you have once in your life resorted to fasting, not because you're after some sort of spiritual fulfillment, but simply as an expression that is painfully hurtful. It is, unfortunately, self-inflicted. It is silly, time-wasting, and wasting of oneself. Just imagine the time you threw away by allowing anger and resentment to eat you up and distract you from the many useful pursuits you would have engaged in. Think about the many things you might have done half-heartedly and grudgingly. Do you think they bore fruits, even if you got some good results? I am certain the results were not as desirable as the ones you would have obtained working with a calm, relaxed mind and positive attitude towards the work. Everyone must learn to take charge of their emotions and actions. It is never a good habit to relinquish the control of your emotions and decision-making to others. Person's strength dwells in their ability to control how they respond to different events in their lives. You must be able to face challenges and handle them objectively without taking things personally. It is also important to remain firmly on track by staying fully focused on the ultimate prize. Embrace contentment. So you just have enough cash to either buy an apartment or a car. You want both, but can only have one. So you start complaining that you cannot have both the car and the apartment. You end up not buying either of them, but keep spending the money little by little till it becomes insufficient to purchase neither a car nor an apartment. You miss out on both. That is the kind of situation in which some people deliberately get themselves into because of wanting more than they can afford. They are not content with the little they have. So they spend a great deal of their time whining and blaming circumstances for what they lack. They fail to appreciate the little they have because they solemnly want what they cannot get. In some cases, these people end up losing even the little that they have. One very simple way of learning how to develop a strong and intelligent mental attitude is by learning to be content in life. You must appreciate and embrace your past and present achievements and then strive to achieve more. Do not strain your mind by frowning and wearing a somber mood for the bad moments and failures when there is so much that you need to appreciate and be happy for. Prepare for challenges. Consider a parent whose child is completing high school at the end of the year. The least we should expect of a responsible father or mother is to expect his or her child to qualify for college admission next year. An irresponsible parent and an outright pessimist may, from time to time, doubt the possibility that their child has what it takes to qualify for admission into an institution of higher learning. And in situations where a child is exceptionally hardworking and destined for excellence, the irresponsible parent has it in their genes to figure out a way to think and face the situation with pessimism. They may constantly burden themselves with devastating feeling about unbearable college admission and tuition fees. They constantly run around whining about the extortionary fees charged in colleges and universities while doing nothing to find funds for the child's college fees. When we prepare adequately for potential situations, we minimize the chances of painful struggles and disappointing outcomes when they actually come to pass. They find us prepared and ready to handle them with a more positive attitude. Essentially, we are firmly in control of our own lives and do not let situations determine we live. We do not allow things to happen to us, but make things happen in certain because of a sharp foresight and prior preparation. Proactive person does not only live by the grace, but also takes the initiative to define their desired future and institutes measures that allow them to determine the course of their own life. As such a person anticipates situations and creatively crafts an effective strategy to deal with challenges that are inseparable with the expected situation. They do not sit back and wait for something to happen. that they take actions to ensure such situations do not lead to devastation or disruption of their normal way of life. When a person gets habituated to making preparations and prior arrangements for likely occurrences, they subconsciously begin to accept that life's challenges are normal and are able to grow more and more positive in performing their day-to-day tasks. This is a clear indication that the person's mental attitude is growing tougher. The fact that they also find it easy to creatively devise creative ways of handling uniquely challenging situations in life. Exercise patience. We cannot talk about patience and forget to remind ourselves of one very famous quote: "Rome was not built in a day." Truly, there is nothing worthwhile that is achievable in the blink of an eye. Good things take time to materialize. Just like the number of years determines the fineness of wine, the more the years, the finer the wine, a process that consumes more resources, time, and requires more precision turns out to be more valuable than a similar process that requires fewer inputs and commitment. Whereas patience is a quality of a strong mental attitude, its expression is a vital means of growing and strengthening it. Strong and intelligent mental attitude is depicted through hard work and endurance. You do not expect instant results, but rather follow a step-by-step procedure in the implementation process towards a worthy cause. It is quite undesirable to have a habit of expecting immediate results, a situation that may be sufficiently tempting to rush things to fruition before the ideal moment. The practice of patience when implementing time-consuming processes does not only strengthen their mental attitude, but also provides room for calmness and peace mind that makes the whole process a smooth ride. Patience rids the course of action of mental obstacles that would channel negativity in the endeavor to render unnecessarily challenging. Besides, a patient soul firmly holds onto the conviction to achieve, and the determination pushes you through. It endears a boldness that fires through thick and thin to pursue your cause to completion. Such is an expression of the strength of mental attitude that hugely serves to engrave the trait even firmly to the mind. Chapter 2. The picture of personal prosperity. Napoleon Hill spent almost his entire life studying 500 of the world's greatest achievers, and the essence of his exhaustive studies and writings is contained in his great book, Think and Grow Rich. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Not many people believe this, but the ones who do prove it to themselves. Why don't you prove it to yourself? Now, just build the image of prosperity on the screen of your mind and watch what happens. Remember, though, regardless of how tough things get, you must continue to hold the picture of personal prosperity. You will very likely run up against a series of circumstances that will, for a time, almost have you convinced you're actually going backwards, but persistence is the key. Continue to hold the picture of personal prosperity and understand that what is happening to you is what must happen to prepare you to receive the good you desire. Persistence. Napoleon Hill devoted an entire chapter in Think and Grow Rich to persistence. In that chapter he said, "There may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence, but the character is to the quality of man what carbon is to steel." Hill also pointed out, in another part of the same chapter, that the only thing which separated Thomas Edison or Henry Ford from the rest of the people in the world was persistence. For both of these great men had an image, and they would not let anyone or anything dissuade them. They were persistent. One illuminated the world, the other put the world on wheels. Both were, of course, richly rewarded. In a previous chapter, we explained money as a reward for service rendered. These men provided a tremendous service to millions of individuals, and the reward was in direct proportion to the service rendered. So build your image of prosperity and be persistent. The way for your image to materialize will be shown to you. Persistence always pays. Number of years ago, John Canary, a friend and business partner of mine, was discussing Hill's chapter on persistence with me. We both seemed to be equally impressed with the importance of this quality, as well as with the necessity of a person having it if they were to reach any worthwhile goal. After a time, and nearing the end of our discussion, we each agreed we would read the chapter on persistence once every day for 30 days. I don't even have to ask John to find out if this exercise helped him. I know it did, and the exercise has most certainly benefited me on numerous occasions. There is an interesting story concerning John Canary, which would be very appropriate to share with you here, since it illustrates both the power of imaging as well as persistence. Although I had known John Canary for a couple of years and had talked with him on many occasions, certainly did not know him as intimately as I do at the time of this writing. It is important that I bring this out here, as I will be referring back to it shortly. The incident I am about to relate took place in 1971. Was living in Chicago at the time, and had just completed a speaking engagement in Edmonton, Alberta. When I returned to my room, there was a telephone message for me to call John Canary in Belleville, Ontario, Canada. I returned the call, and after a couple of minutes of small talk, John said it was rather important that he meet with me, as he had something he wanted to discuss, and he preferred not to go into it on the telephone. I asked John to wait while I looked over my calendar. It was, in the vernacular, packed tight. I was busy, to say the least. Almost every day I had either a seminar or speaking engagement in a different city in North America. I explained this to John and told him that although I would love to visit, I really didn't know when I could. John was persistent, so I said, "Listen, I'm leaving Edmonton for Chicago tonight at midnight. To get to Chicago, I have to go through Toronto. I'll arrive there at 7 a.m. I'll have to change terminals, and I leave from the second terminal 1 hour and 50 minutes later. I'll be happy to talk to you then, although I don't promise to be too alert after flying all night." It is also worth mentioning that John had to get up early enough to drive the 125 miles from Belleville to Toronto to meet my 7:00 a.m. arrival. I remember that all John said was, "I'll be there." The next morning I sat in the airport coffee shop and listened as John explained how he wanted to do what I was doing. He wanted to conduct seminars. He also explained that he was prepared to pay the price, whatever it might be. As I listened, it was like hearing a popular song on the radio. You keep hearing it over and over again. In almost every seminar I conduct, there is a man or woman in the seminar who wants to do what I'm doing. I've heard it in Biloxi, Mississippi, Butte, Montana, Los Angeles, New York, Moncton, and Montreal. It was an old tune. Now here I was in Toronto with a friend who, as I have already mentioned, I did not know that well, and he was asking what he had to do. As I was listening, the same images, which I had with all the others, were flashing through my mind. I was remembering all the traveling and the fear of standing up and speaking in a large hotel ballroom crowded with people who wanted you to get them excited, but who were mentally putting you on trial at the same time, thinking, "Does this guy know what he's talking about?" In many situations, such as a sales convention, you had 40 minutes from beginning to end in which to build rapport with a few hundred strangers and get them excited about themselves. The years of staying up nights reading and studying, the years of learning by attending seminars all over the continent, the years of working for next to nothing to prepare oneself to hold the attention of a group of people all day in a seminar, these were the images racing across my mind. It had taken me 11 years to get to that point. But how do you say, "No, you'll never do it," when someone like John asks you, especially when the essence of what you teach is, you can do anything? Yet how can you say yes when everyone you know, with the exception of 2 or 3 others besides yourself, cannot earn a living in the public speaking business unless they are a celebrity? And that is a whole different story. When John Canary finished, I told him what I had told all the others. Yes, you can do it, but it's tough. Make sure you understand that, John, it's tough. You will have to do a tremendous amount of studying, because you not only have to know what to say, but you must also have the answers to 1,001 questions arising as a result of what you say. Some of the questions will come from professional people, medical doctors, engineers, and lawyers, who, in most cases, know what they're talking about. So you not only have to be right, but confident as well, or you will be discredited with your entire audience, and that only has to happen a couple of times, and you're out of business. You not only have to study these ideas, but you must use them as well, or there will be no conviction in your talks. Not to mention the fact that you will be a walking physical contradiction to what you teach. It is next to impossible, for example, to have sick person teaching health. You must develop showmanship and voice, control, and on it goes. In short, John, for everyone who makes it, 1,000 fail miserably. Usually when this is explained, the person says they still want to go ahead, but you never hear from them again. John was no exception. In one sense, he still wanted to go ahead. However, in every other way, he was an exception. I did see him again. I told him what to read and what to do, and he read it and did it. John read hundreds of books. He devoured them. He narrated them onto tapes, and then played the tapes in the car. At his own expense, he followed me all over the country and sat in hundreds of seminars. He wrote thousands of pages of notes and studied them diligently. Finally, I would have him open and close the seminars. Then he would conduct part of a seminar himself. In the beginning, he was full of fear. He was soaking wet. Sometimes he would be so worried about what the audience thought of him that he would forget everything he knew, and, as you know, an audience can be very cruel. But despite all this, he continued. Keep in mind, this was costing him money. He was not being paid. John Canary had built an image of himself doing what I was doing, and he would not quit. He was persistent, and it worked. It always has, and it always will. Today he has earned the respect of many of the world's largest corporations. He has spoken in almost every major city in North America. He has also earned more in one day than he was earning in a year when I first met him. So if someone with numerous degrees after their name tells you image-making and persistence don't work, just look John Canary up and ask him. He will tell you, I know you can do it, because I did it. Philip Nacala, a minister in Santa Ana, California, preached a sermon on a similar idea one Sunday that I was fortunate enough to hear when I was living there. He said, keep your mind on a higher image rather than a lower concern. I realize that is not always an easy thing to do, but it sure pays great dividends for the person who develops the mental strength to do it, and that is what it takes. Mental strength. Build your image now and develop the mental strength to hold it. Chapter 3. Reach out and embrace it. A number of years ago, prior to Napoleon Hill's death, Earl Nightingale condensed and narrated Think and Grow Rich onto a long playing record. At the end of the record, Mr. Hill comes on to close the record. He said, and now as I stretch out the hand of friendship through time and space, let me remind you not to go searching for opportunity in the distance, but reach out and embrace it right where you are. Otto said, this thinking stuff, permeates and penetrates the entire universe. They are both telling us the same thing. So build your image now, right where you are. Don't even wait until you finish this book. Build it now and let the remaining pages in this book strengthen the image. You don't even have to try. Just let the image of a more prosperous you float to the center of your consciousness. It's already here, so let it appear. For many years now, I have been very aware of the power that flows through you to accomplish good in your life when you hold the proper image in your mind, and this great truth has been responsible for many wonderful things happening in my own life. Moreover, I have also seen numerous examples of what a proper image will do in the lives of other people. What I have suggested you start doing: start right where you are, build the image of what you want, and then act as if you have already received it. Expressed somewhat differently, act like the person you want to become. For as Goethe, the German philosopher, once wrote, before you can do something, you first must be something. As you finish this chapter, lay the book down and then become very relaxed. Let creative energy fill your consciousness, and then mold it into an image of yourself in a much more abundant state of life. See yourself already in possession of what you previously only dreamed of. Become extremely conscious of the truth that your entire being is not only filled with, but also is surrounded by, the original substance all images are made of. So do not just keep reading page after page of the book without acting on the suggestions which I've been giving you. Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, which happens to be one of the most successful books of all time. He states what the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. While some may dismiss this as self-help snake oil, there is more merit to the statement than you may realize. Your thoughts are so powerful, they even control how your DNA expresses itself. It may seem impossible that thought could influence around 60 trillion cells in your body, as well as the DNA supporting those cells. But, as Bruce Lipton, biologist and researcher into epigenetics, will tell you, DNA is the beginning of a chain reaction. Lipton has stated conventional belief was that your life to a large degree was determined by your heredity. The new science of epigenetics, above the genes, says, no, your life is a result of your participation and your mind's influence on what's going on. The way DNA expresses will tell the cell how to behave. If there are no perceptions, then DNA is inactive. Without environmental stimuli, a cell can't turn itself on or off. Perception rewrites our genes and tells which ones to express. Human belief and our reaction to our environments will communicate on the physiological level to our DNA, telling our genes how to express in a process called DNA methylation. To skip a long course in biology, however, what this means is that your thoughts are profound enough to influence genes you may have that would cause cancer or even prevent those genes from expressing. See if your thoughts can affect gene expression. What do you imagine they can do for you when it comes to goal achievement? The positive psychological model for changing our thoughts is based on the philosophy that it is not what happens in life that determines our state of mind, but our thoughts about those things that happen. Shakespeare told us pretty much the same thing in Hamlet, writing, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And Lao Tzu, a famous Taoist philosopher, has said, if you correct your mind, the rest of your life will fall into place. Yi, this guy died in 533 BC, but his wisdom still holds true today. Moreover, it is our subconscious minds, not our conscious minds, that are in control. The famous psychologist Carl Jung actually called this our unconscious mind. He said that this part of our minds has innate characteristics imprinted upon it that are evolutionary and ancestral. We may have a fear of the dark and an intrepid courageousness based on the feats of our ancestors that are literally stored in our cellular memory. We all live out archetypal selves that project our strongest subconscious strengths and weaknesses. What we try to hide from ourselves or others, Jung and brilliant writers like Joseph Campbell call the shadow self. It isn't that the shadow self is bad. In fact, this is often where our greatest strengths lie, but we usually have to develop some character and wisdom to turn this shadow self into something that will help us achieve success and happiness in life. In Jung's book, The Undiscovered Self, he wrote that the problems of modern life are caused by man's progressive alienation of his instinctual foundation. CCI, any of our instincts, again, are not bad per se, but if they are not unearthed and integrated in a healthy way, become problematic instead of personal growth inspiring. Just a few simple examples. If you are an extremely intelligent go-getter, you may have a difficult time relaxing, socializing, or listening to others' opinions because you are in fact so often correct. If you are kind to a fault, you may end up being other people's doormat and have a hard time standing up in the face of dishonesty, ill treatment, or ill regard. The extreme go-getter may naturally succeed in business and finances, but lacks quality personal relationships. His task would be to change his subconscious mind to incorporate more positive beliefs about his abilities to relate to others. If the superkind person wants to develop healthier personal boundaries so that they can spend more time on achieving their goals and dreams, and less time bowing to everyone else's needs, they will need to focus on developing subconscious beliefs that they are worth just as much as everyone in their family or at their jobs, and so on. So how do you program your subconscious mind for success? You're in luck. We have some highly actionable steps you can take to do exactly that. Chapter 4. Why Self-Discipline is the Most Important Habit to Master. In his book, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life, author Tom Corley studied the daily habits of 233 millionaires. But he didn't stop there. He also studied the habits of 128 people who earn less than $35,000 per year. And what he found was that your habits will determine whether or not you succeed in life. Let's take a look at the good habits of highly successful people and the bad habits that are keeping you at the bottom of the totem pole. Procrastination. There is no denying that everyone procrastinates on tasks they don't enjoy. But poor people spend way too much time procrastinating. Corley states that procrastination prevents some of the most talented people from becoming successful. Additionally, according to best-selling author Napoleon Hill, wealthy people make decisions quickly. They follow their instincts. If it feels right, they run with it, and if not, they look for another option. Procrastination is one of the main reasons that people struggle financially. It ruins your credibility with employers and work colleagues when you rush to get work done at the last minute, and it affects the quality of your output. Wealthy people are early risers. Approximately 50% of the millionaires in Corley's study woke up at least 3 hours before their workday began. Most of them spent that time exercising, planning the day ahead, or tackling personal projects. Corley states that waking up at 5:00 a.m. to get the most important things on your to-do list out of the way gives you control over your life. It provides you with a sense of confidence that you are in fact the captain of your ship. Wealthy people read books. 88% of the respondents in Corley's research said that they spent at least 30 minutes a day on self-improvement by reading. Wealthy people do not read for entertainment purposes, but to educate themselves. They prefer reading books on personal development, biographies, and history. Self-made billionaire Warren Buffett says he spends approximately 6 hours per day reading, and that it has been the most important habit he's developed. Wealthy people exercise. Studies have found that exercise gives you mental clarity and improves your motivation. Corley reports that 76% of the respondents in his research spent at least 30 minutes a day engaging in aerobic exercise such as walking, biking, or jogging. Many successful business leaders make time to work out every day. For example, Richard Branson wakes up at 5:00 am, goes cycling or plays tennis. He states that adding exercise to his routine has maximized his productivity. Wealthy people are thinkers. Wealthy people spend 15 to 30 minutes per day thinking. Corley discovered that they think in isolation as a part of their morning routine. This time is spent processing everything that's going on in their lives and strategizing for future events. They reflect on their personal relationships, their health, and their careers. According to research, having quiet time to evaluate your thoughts is linked to stress reduction. Wealthy people pursue their goals. Success is not an accident. Wealthy people make a plan to get rich and then take the action required to make it happen. Corley found that 80% of the wealthy people in his study were obsessed with pursuing and achieving their goal. They evaluated their long and short-term goals daily. Unbeknownst to many of us, the majority of people spend their lives fulfilling other people's dreams. Climbing up the corporate ladder only benefits the owner of that company. Wealthy people put a ladder up against their own wall and climb to the top of their own castle. Wealthy people spend time being inspired. Successful people make a point of limiting their exposure to toxic, negative individuals who drain their energy and stunt their motivation. Corley found that the wealthy people in his study connected with people who inspired them to achieve their goals and to remain on the path of continuous improvement. Wealthy people have more than one stream of income. Wealthy people generally have more than one source of income. Corley found that prior to making their first $1 million, respondents had at least 3 streams of income, such as real estate or other investments. It's important to have multiple sources of income because the economy is not always going to be stable. You can lose a job the moment your company goes bust. If you own your own company, you can lose that income if there is no longer a demand for your products or services. And therefore, the most effective way to stay ahead of the game is to have multiple sources of income. Wealthy people get enough sleep. Sleep is important because it rejuvenates the body. Albert Einstein said that he got at least 10 hours of sleep a night. The assumption is that rich people don't sleep. Instead, they spend every last hour of their day on money-making endeavors. Corley found the opposite to be true. A whopping 89% of the wealthy people in his study got 7 or more hours of sleep a night. Research suggests that sleep is essential to success because it affects creative thinking and memory function. Wealthy people value their time. The most important asset in the world is time. You can re-earn lost money. You can get your health back if you fall ill. You can buy another house if it gets repossessed. But time is one thing you can never buy back, which is why wealthy people value it so much. Corley found that wealthy people don't waste their time scrolling through social media or binge-watching programs on Netflix. They also avoid people who waste their time. I am very intentional about who I choose to spend my time with, even family members. The way I see it, if people are not adding to your life, they're taking from it, and if you want to achieve your goals, you can't afford to associate with people who feel they've got the right to monopolize your time with foolishness. Now, let's take a look at the habits of the men and women in Corley's study who earned less than $35,000 per year. He referred to them as poverty habits. Here are some of them. Remaining in your comfort zone. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Becoming successful is the most uncomfortable thing you'll ever do. If you want to achieve your goals, you'll need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Corley found that poor people like to blend in. They want to be accepted, and they don't like standing out from the crowd. But the inability to separate yourself from the masses is one of the main reasons people don't achieve anything. The average person enjoys being in familiar surroundings, and they don't like leaving their comfort zone. In contrast, wealthy people enjoy uncertainty. That's where they find comfort because that's the place of unlimited potential. To become wealthy, you've got to take risks, and most people are not willing to do that. Job dissatisfaction. Poor people generally hate their job, but because of the perceived security a job provides, they remain in employment they feel dissatisfied with. Leaving your house every morning to go to a job you can't stand will cause you to become frustrated, stressed, and unsatisfied with life. Ultimately, it will affect your chances of becoming wealthy because you won't have the energy to do anything other than work in a job that makes you miserable and complain about it. Successful people chase their passions, and that's where they get the most satisfaction. Passion is more important than skills, intelligence, and education because that's what drives you. Getting out of bed in the morning becomes exciting when you look forward to the work you are doing. Spending too much. Poor people don't have any financial discipline. They acquire liabilities instead of assets. 95% of the in Corley's study had no savings, and they had massive debts because they refused to live within their means. As a result, they had no money to send their children to college, for retirement, or to pursue the opportunities that could improve their financial situation. Spending more money than you earn creates an endless cycle of poverty. Avoiding feedback. Poor people don't like constructive criticism because it requires self-evaluation. It goes back to staying in your comfort zone. When a manager, mentor, or friend gives you feedback, it means you've got to take action and make the necessary improvements to get on track. Making improvements in any area of your life means stepping outside your comfort zone, and the average person wants to remain comfortable. Negative thinking. Again, negative thinking is something that we all experience no matter how wealthy we might be. The difference between the rich and the poor is that the rich don't let it define them, and they don't allow it to stop them from getting things done. They quickly reframe their thoughts and keep things moving. On the other hand, poor people are driven by their negative thinking. They won't apply for promotions, start a business, or look for a higher-paying job because they have convinced themselves they are incapable. Watching too much television. 77% of the poor people in Corley's study spent over 1 hour each day watching TV. On the other hand, 66% of the millionaires in his study spent less than 1 hour a day watching television. He concluded that the poor prefer to be entertained than educated, whereas the rich prefer to be educated instead of entertained. One of the hallmarks of self-made millionaires is the productive use of their time. Associating with negative people. 86% of the wealthy people who took part in Corley's research made a habit of associating with people who were just as driven and motivated as them. When you associate with people who are constantly striving to achieve their goals and become the best versions of themselves, you have no time to be toxic and negative. However, only 4% of the poor people in Corley's study associated with people who directed their energy toward success and positivity. 96% associated with negative, toxic individuals. Drinking too much alcohol. There is nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. The occasional beer or glass of wine isn't going to hurt. But 54% of the poor people in Corley's study drank more than 2 glasses of alcohol per day. 84% of the millionaires drank less than 2 glasses of alcohol per day. Research has found that too much alcohol has a negative effect on your memory, and it clouds your judgment. Unhealthy eating. 90% of the poor people in Corley's study ate more than 300 calories from junk food every day. 69% ate takeaway more than 3 times per week. 69% ate candy more than 3 times a week. And 66% of the participants were at least 30 pounds overweight. Wealthy people invest in their health by eating the right foods and doing regular exercise. A healthy diet not only helps you keep the weight off, it gives you more energy and boosts your brain power. Gambling. People gamble and play the lottery because they want to make quick money. But getting rich quick is rare, and the people who do tend to lose the money just as quickly as they made it. Financial success requires relentless effort, initiative, and time. People who gamble have convinced themselves that it's a shortcut to wealth. In Crowley's study, he found that 77% of poor people played the lottery every week, and 52% gambled on sports at least once a week. In comparison, 94% of rich people didn't play the lottery, and 84% didn't gamble on sports. Instead of relying on get-rich-quick schemes, wealthy people rely on developing the habit of chasing their dreams. It's also important to mention that having the discipline to achieve your goals isn't enough. You've also got to have the discipline to maintain your goals. There are plenty of people who achieved a measure of success and lost it because they became complacent and undisciplined once they got to the top. Today, my life might look easier than it did 10 years ago, but I now work harder to maintain what I've got. That's why the habits mentioned above must become a lifestyle and not just a stepping stone to success. How to develop self-discipline. You've just heard about the difference between the habits of the rich and the poor. The main difference between these two groups is self-discipline. In reality, everyone is disciplined to a degree, but some people are just disciplined in the wrong things. The poor person has developed a habit of sitting in front of the TV every night, while the rich person has developed a habit of reading a book or exercising. The question is, how do you become disciplined in the right things? First, let's define self-discipline. What is self-discipline? In short, it's the ability to do what you know you need to do when you don't feel like doing it. Self-discipline is about drive, determination, resolve, willpower, self-regulation, and self-control. As far as I'm concerned, it's the superpower that trumps all superpowers, because without self-discipline, all other superpowers are ineffective. All experts stress the importance of self-discipline. It's the most important ingredient in anything you want to do, whether you want to improve your relationships, manage your emotions better, to be more positive, get promoted, procrastinate less, be more productive, spend less, exercise more, eat better, or lose weight. There are several benefits to self-discipline. Here are some of them. It helps you control your emotions. When you get angry, upset, or frustrated, your first instinct is to react to how you're feeling. But that's not a good idea. Anger is a powerful emotion, and even the most unlikely people have killed because of it. I know that I've said some pretty terrible things when I've been angry. Unfortunately, once those words are released, you can't take them back. When you're self-disciplined, you can control your emotions better. That doesn't mean you're not going to feel angry, upset, or frustrated, but it does mean you'll be more likely to process your emotions before reacting to them. In this way, you are able to respond more appropriately to the situation. Improved financial health. Despite the fact that I was earning $200,000 per year, I was always broke. Why? Because I had no self-discipline. I spent money like I had a never-ending stream of it running through my bank account. Meals out cost $300. I booked weekends away and blew $5 in 2 days. I bought the most expensive suits. My spending was out of control, and I found it very difficult to get my finances in order. We all know that spending money feels good. Buying those new, shiny items is always pleasurable. But living within your means, saving for a rainy day, and planning for the future will be of more benefit to you in the long run. I didn't like the idea of financial discipline. I assumed it meant I had to live like a pauper and put total restrictions on my life. But it wasn't as bad as I thought. I just had to get into the habit of sticking to a budget and saving a percentage of my salary every month. It sounds simple, but when you're used to blowing thousands in one go, you are going to struggle. Although I did get some satisfaction out of the fact that I knew I could afford what I really wanted, but I was choosing not to indulge. It was also really satisfying to see money piling up in my bank account. You will have fewer regrets. This is connected to controlling your emotions. When you don't have any self-discipline, you make bad choices. You don't think before you speak, which means you are more likely to blurt out something embarrassing at the wrong time. Instead, you will spend time gathering all the necessary information before making a decision, which means you won't make choices based on your opinion or emotion, but on facts. Success in your field, whether you're a student or an investment banker like I was, success in any area requires hard work. When you're not self-disciplined, you'll never reach your highest potential. It's impossible. Becoming the best version of yourself requires extreme discipline. I always did the bare minimum and got away with it because I was naturally intelligent. But I could have gone a lot further in my field if I had put the work in. At the time, I didn't think I needed to, and I wasn't willing to do it. But that's not how people get recognized in their field. I was one of those people who would turn my nose up at employees who got promoted ahead of me. I could never understand it. I assumed my qualifications were enough. But the people who got promoted were the ones who were always on time for work, stayed after hours, and took the necessary courses to improve their skills. That type of work ethic requires discipline, and it will get you noticed. Improved relationships. I was the most unreliable person in my family. If I said I'd be there at 6:00 p.m., I'd arrive at 8:00 p.m. If I said I'd call at 12:00 noon, I'd call at 2:00 p.m. I just couldn't stick to anything, and it really rubbed people up the wrong way. I knew I was unreliable, and I didn't think about it until I started doing it to my mentor, and he pulled me up on it. Mike had me put myself in the shoes of the people I was always letting down. When I thought about it like that, I realized how badly I'd disappointed people. It was a running joke that I was untrustworthy. We all laughed about it, but even though my family had just learned to accept it, deep down it bothered them. I found this out when we had a heart-to-heart after I decided to get my life on track. To begin with, they didn't believe I was going to change, and they had every right not to. It was up to me to prove myself because I'd let them down so many times. There were definitely a few bumps along the road, but I got there in the end, and today they know my word is my bond. The assumption is that self-discipline is an innate characteristic that some people have and others don't. That's not the case. It's learned behavior. The problem is that the majority of people are not raised in homes where there is an emphasis on self-discipline. I know this to be true from my own personal experience. My parents spoke about it all the time, but they didn't model it because they didn't know how. I was basically trained to do the bare minimum. I didn't tap into my highest potential until I was in my late 30s. My mentor taught me about the importance of self-discipline and how to develop it. So here are some tips. Motivate yourself. Have you ever noticed that when you're excited about something, you don't struggle to achieve it? You just get on with it because you're passionate, energetic, and enthusiastic about it? Now let's say you've got a vacation coming up, and you know you want to look good in your bikini or swimming trunks, and so you set yourself a weight loss goal. You fly out of bed at 5:00 a.m. When that alarm goes off, you guzzle down gallons of water as if it were your favorite soda, and you feast on that salad as if it were a Big Mac. Motivation is the reason we do things. The power of why is a concept that is spoken about by leadership expert Simon Sinek. When you have a clear understanding of why you want to achieve something, you are more likely to stay focused and achieve it. Before you start on your journey of building better habits, tap into your why. I wanted to develop better habits because I wanted more out of life for myself and my future family. I also had a deep desire to help other people, but I didn't feel that I was in a position to do so because I was still struggling myself. Once I had identified my why, putting what I was learning into practice became a lot easier. Develop a morning routine. In his book, The Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod says that the way you start your day has a major impact on your success in life. A focused and productive morning leads to a focused and productive day. The more productive you are, the more you get done. But most people don't have focused and productive mornings. They hit the snooze button over and over again so that they have just enough time to take a shower and get dressed. Then they stop off at McDonald's or Starbucks for breakfast so they've got just enough energy to make it until lunch. They grab a pizza for lunch and then rush home after work to eat another unhealthy meal while they sit in front of the TV. How can you expect to achieve your goals when you live like this? Hal Elrod wrote his book because that was how he lived his life until he developed the habit of a morning routine. He went from being terribly depressed, broke, and unhealthy to being an international keynote speaker, a successful businessman, an ultra-marathon runner, and a best-selling author. He has now transformed the lives of thousands of others by teaching them about the importance of developing the habit of a morning routine. Chapter 5. Success and Desire Go Hand in Hand. For Napoleon Hill, author of the seminal Think and Grow Rich, success and desire go hand in hand. Desire, ideas, plans, and action is success. This formula is so useful because it shows very clearly the essential ingredients needed for success of any kind. Success is not something you simply chance upon, and without the combination of ideas, plans, and action with the starting point of true desire, you are unlikely to be inclined to do the hard labor needed to reach a happier, healthier, and wealthier endpoint. If you still aren't convinced, think about this. Do the majority of people really want to be wealthy, or do they want to appear wealthy? If your answer is the former, why is it that so many people stop short of generating true financial stability and instead settle for the occasional, and often debt-inducing, major purchase of a designer handbag, clothing, car, or a holiday? It might be that they don't have the drive or determination to go out and do what they need to do. But if that's the case, can it really be said that they desire wealth? Stepping outside of Hill's formula for success, I'm also of the mind that finding your passion is an essential ingredient of success in wealth building, variously credited to the philosopher Confucius, Ark Anthony, and many others. There's truth to be found in the notion that if you choose a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Think anyone would agree that it's better to do something you enjoy than something that you have no interest in? But there's no linear path that leads us all into a position that we're passionate about. For what it's worth, think that there are two schools of thought that make some sense when it comes to finding your calling. The first, that you should do what you love, is championed by former marketer and now motivational speaker Simon Sinek, proposing a set of rules for passion. Sinek suggests that passion is an output, as opposed to the input of dedication that so many people believe it to be. In this theory, passion is what we feel when we get involved in something that is deeply personal to us, and something that can only be found when you do the things you care about. For Sinek, your passion doesn't even have to be unique or novel to be the right path for you. It could be that you want to do everything in your power to further racial equality, or perhaps you are dead set on establishing the next Silicon Valley startup. Either way, your calling is something that you deeply care about, and more often than not, it will be staring you right in the face. On the other hand, we have a belief held by the prolific investor and chief executive officer of the international conglomerate Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett. For Buffett, finding your passion is so important because people who end up doing what they love generally do it pretty well, and can reach loftier heights as a result. With his focus on identifying what you're passionate about, Buffett advises students leaving college to take the job that they would do if they were independently wealthy, forcing them to do something they truly care about. The rationale here, of course, is that if you do something well because you genuinely want to and don't just have the ulterior motive of getting rich, wealth and success will follow. Returning to the example of an employee trying to make the cut for a promotion despite strong competition, Buffett's theory resonates with the fact that a perfunctory approach to work does not result in a worthwhile product. Today's society is hugely competitive, and if you don't love what you do, you will automatically find yourself at a disadvantage in the labor market and any other market you choose to trade in. When all is said and done, the importance of passion cannot be overstated. Seneca is known to present success as a binary. Either you see the things that you want or you see the things that hold you back from what you want. Passion is what clears the way and allows you to progress towards the things that you desire. Persevere. Failure is an integral part of success, and as Robert Kiyosaki put it, people who avoid failure also avoid success. The point is, there is no easy road to success, and that includes becoming wealthy. In almost all cases, there will be bumps and detours and even U-turns along the way, and if you become disillusioned and stop striving towards your goals, there's little chance of you ever reaching them. People often use Jeff Bezos as an example of why perseverance is important. It's certainly true that he has enjoyed massive success by dragging Amazon up by the proverbial bootstraps, but it's also true that he came from a background of relative comfort and worked as a stockbroker before founding what became the world's largest online retailer. Recognize and admire Bezos, but I feel that more can be learned from the salutary tale of Jack Ma, founder of Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba. Born and raised by storyteller parents in China's Zhejiang province, Jack Ma was worth a staggering $41 billion by mid-2020. The story of his success is truly inspiring, but Jack Ma has never professed to be some kind of prodigy or business maestro. Facing his first struggles early on in life, a failed elementary school twice and middle school 3 times, he was rejected by the police force and claims to have been the only applicant out of 24 to be rejected by KFC when it came to his town. Jack Ma was by no means an overachiever at this point, but rather than throwing in the towel, he chalked up his failures to experience. He applied to Harvard Business School no less than 10 times, and not once did he get a positive response. Despite these setbacks, I has now accumulated one of the world's largest fortunes and regularly appears on the front covers of magazines such as Forbes. It's clear that Jack Ma did have the capability to achieve great things, but if he had given up as a result of any one of his many rejections, he might never have reached his true potential. What this shows us is that success is not guaranteed, and if you want to be successful, you absolutely must keep fighting for it. If Harvard Business School can be wrong about an applicant, so can the bank manager who refused your business startup loan at your local branch, or the potential customers that turned down the free product samples you offered them. By preparing for and accepting failure, you can build yourself back up from every knockdown you receive, and each "I told you so" from jaded family members who are concerned at the thought of you investing money. On a fundamental level, the art of perseverance plays into selling, an essential skill if your goal is to be wealthy. You see, selling in this sense does not just mean selling a product or a service, although those are obviously necessary if you wish to establish a venture of your own, but rather selling yourself. Everybody faces rejection at some point or another, but it's how you respond to that rejection that defines you. From Alibaba to Amazon, and Microsoft to Walmart, every business has its watershed moment when the failures start rolling into successes. The key is to use failure as a learning process, as doing so will ensure that you are in a constant cycle of improvement. As Jack Ma says, never give up. Today is hard, tomorrow will be worse, but the day after tomorrow will be sunshine. If you give up, your improvement ceases, and so too does any hope of reaching your goal, whether that be wealth or some other aspiration. Acknowledging that overnight success is a myth. There's an old saying that goes around in the Army, and it's known as the 7 Ps. Proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. Although rather elementary, it serves as an important reminder that success does not just happen, and very often it is the tip of an expansive iceberg that is frozen over hundreds of years and extends far below the visible surface. Cannot impress upon you enough that the vast majority, 99.9% of people, will not just wake up one day with a brimming bank account and a high-performing portfolio of investments. The world's wealthiest people, excluding those that inherited their wealth, will each have the stories of their own origins, but these generally follow a fairly similar pattern. Before the likes of Bill Gates and Michael Bloomberg made it big, They found themselves scraping the barrel and trying whatever they could to make ends meet while still pushing towards their goals. Your attempts to reach your goals, whether gainful or not, are practice runs in preparation for your future success. Just like a military operation, wealth is not something that can be achieved without planning and preparation, even if that means facing some demoralizing failures along the way. For Bloomberg, success did not come until some time after he had been fired from investment bank Salomon Brothers, at which time he reportedly decided that, as nobody would offer him a job, he would start a company of his own. Dissimilarly, you probably won't have heard of the company Trefo Data, Bill Gates' first venture. Despite his successes as the multi-billionaire founder of Microsoft, Gates couldn't get his first company to take off, and with products that didn't work and couldn't be sold, he was left with no option but to wind things up. Final example, one that perhaps yields more of a comedic value than a distinct message, is that of Sergey Brin, co-founder of search engine behemoth Google. What Brin thought to be his masterstroke came years before Google, and manifested as a plan to allow people to order pizza via fax machine. Naturally, Brin's fax-o pizza service never took off, but he has since said that he's glad of this, as it granted him the opportunity to move on to bigger and better things. The truth is that overnight success doesn't happen. Even if a business takes an unprecedented 1,000 orders in a day after never selling more than 10 products a week before, its success will likely be found in the marketing, sales and branding efforts made in the weeks, months and years leading up to the first day of pay dirt. Regardless of the challenges you face on your path to wealth, you'll have a better success hit rate if you just keep trying. Conversely, if you try once, fail and stop, you'll have a 100th rate of failure and a 0 chance of recovering and succeeding. Remember, it is beyond any reasonable doubt that Rome was not built in a day. Focus. If you meet any self-made millionaire, what might strike you is just how focused they are. From their business activities to the conversation they're having, successful people have laser focus, which allows them to drill down towards their goals in any situation. Focus is the quality that will help you to get things done, and without it, you'll be left wandering from your path and struggling to get back on track. When it comes to money, and focus is important because building wealth is a process and not an action. It takes time and requires clarity to such an extent that if you lose sight of your goals, it will be a real struggle to return to the right path. To my mind, the most common reason for business failure is a lack of clarity about the business model. Too many small businesses, entrepreneurs and individuals lack direction and don't know exactly where they're going. If you decide not to set a course and determine your goals, you're preparing to drift as you aimlessly move from scheme to scheme without learning anything or moving in the right direction. The quickest way to make progress is to decide what you want to do and set out to damn well do it. Domino's Pizza built their business around order to delivery in less than 30 minutes, and sticking to the theme of logistics, FedEx made theirs to fulfill shipments overnight. What I mean to say is that your goals don't need to be complex or long-term. They could be as simple as earning an extra $1,000 per year. If you manage it, you'll have transitioned forward one step in the right direction, and that's surely worth your time. It's easy to see why so many people struggle with focus. We all have busy lives. For one can appreciate that. Work, relationships, school, commuting, all of these things take time, and they leave us wanting to sleep or binge-watch inconsequential TV that won't lead to any real benefit in the long run. If those circumstances sound familiar, it's absolutely critical that you find a way to juggle all of your commitments whilst utilizing them as a means to reach your goals. When we're busy or drained, focus is a tool that helps us to center our thoughts and channel our energy into reaching our objectives. Write your goals down on paper and keep them visible so you can remind yourself of what you're working towards. Much like the law of attraction, by manifesting your aspiration to be wealthy, you'll bring it just that bit closer to reality. You're focused, you want it desperately, and you'll act to get there. You should assign value to the things you genuinely want, and if that's wealth, there's no reason why you can't focus on bringing about positive change to your finances. Financial proficiency involves both investment and investor. Prioritize personal development. Reaching a level of financial proficiency requires personal commitment, and just as learning anything else takes time and effort, so too does becoming a financial black belt. You cannot start learning to play the piano on a Monday and be a virtuoso by Wednesday, and the same is true of improving your financial outlook. Little by little, these steps will grind away at your shortcomings and prepare you for a wealthier way of life. Chapter 6. Strengthening your mental attitude. Mental attitude may be positive or negative, considering that it determines how a person acts. The negative mental attitude would automatically lead an individual in acting in ways that are generally considered unacceptable, with high anticipation for unfavorable outcomes. On the other hand, positive mental attitude brings optimism into life that normally brings desirable transformations to people. According to Napoleon Hill, a positive mental attitude is a philosophy which asserts that the approach of situations with optimistic disposition attracts positive change and increases chances of succeeding. Just as it is necessary to work hard and smart, it is equally as important to approach every situation with an optimistic attitude plus a highly strategic approach to increase chances of achieving a given goal with desirable results. For this reason, there is a need for a person with curiosity and determination must exhibit a strong and highly intelligent mental attitude. As we are all aware, sheer hard work without creative imagination may complicate performance and demotivate a person and ultimately bring an undesirable result. Similarly, however positive-minded an individual is, a degree of intelligence is essential, especially in challenging moments. Both cognitive intelligence and emotional intelligence must be harnessed sufficiently so as to devise creative ways of finding a way around difficult situations. Intelligence complements the will and inner desire to accomplish a goal. Intelligence is merely a plus, but mental toughness and commitment are mandatory. Therefore, it is important to have a strong and intelligent mental attitude in the quest for accomplishment and self-improvement. But how do you just get to acquire this invaluable habit? The following are a few techniques to put you on course to getting mentally tough. Be emotionally stable at all times. Embrace change when it is clearly inevitable. Keep your troubles in proper perspective. Do not take things personally. Have resilience in the face of adversity. Prepare for challenges. Pay more attention on long-term outcomes. Learn to move on when you must. Just do what is right with little concern about others have to say, and defend what you stand for. Be patient. Do not expect instant results for what you do. Always be in control of your emotions and actions. Accept the things you cannot change. Accept failure and learn from it. Remain positive even when the surrounding is fraught with negativity. Be content with what you have achieved and what you expect to accomplish in future. Never give up. Do not switch lanes unnecessarily. Be true to your course. Aim high. Exercise your mind constantly. Universally, the greatest leadership test appears in the face of enormous adversity. The response, actions, and emotional state bring to light the toughness and intelligence of the leader's mental attitude. A shaky, indecisive, and highly subjective response shows a weak and unintelligent mental attitude. On the other hand, a calm, decisive, objective, and creative approach to such challenging situations is a true portrayal of sheer, strong, and intelligent mental attitude. Also, what happens to us contributes very little towards our happiness and quest for success, but our response to what happens contributes immensely towards our happiness and success. Therefore, it is imperative to prepare adequately for tomorrow's God knows what by adopting a life of good habits of a positive attitude. Emotional stability. Every individual faces a moment in which they have to make crucial decisions under immense pressure. An emotionally stable mind enables you to make sound judgments objectively and guarantee favorable outcomes in spite of the challenges that you are facing. Amazingly, you find it soothingly convenient to act normally even when obstacles appear constantly on the road to success. People suffer losses of their loved ones. Many more lose property and valuable items through natural disasters and malicious damage by others. Some have to endure heartbreaking relationship issues. Others have to deal with devastating disease plagues that lead to health deterioration. Regardless of challenges and painful experiences that people have to face, it is normal to expect them to lead lives with a positive attitude. They have no reason to give up because anyone who has the ability to breathe always has something to offer. Even physically incapacitated person, a bedridden patient, a Terry, may still find a way to make something out of their life. Even though they cannot perform normal activities as before, they do have a chance to inspire others with the mental with which they face their ordeal. They can still be examples of optimism, hope, and inspiration despite their challenging circumstances. Constantly handling situations with rare emotional strength toughens your mental attitude and positions you firmly to handle even more challenging situations. It strengthens your mind to believe that all troubling situations are just like any other normal task, and view all of them with the same eye. It is a sign of great mental strength and a positive way to take an individual through some of the most unbearable moments in life. Strong mental attitude helps you keep challenges in proper perspective without deviating from your cause. Readiness for change. It is commonly believed that a person who has the ability to hold on to beliefs and values has a strong mental attitude. This may be true, but there are situations when such kind of behavior shows rigidity of mind and inability to embrace change. Being flexible and adaptable to a constantly changing environment mostly indicate positive mental attitude, which is a necessary trait for personal growth. There is no need to hold on to practices, methods, and strategies that have become obsolete or largely ineffective when other, more effective techniques are available. It is similarly unwise to continue handling a given task the same way when prevailing conditions and operating environment have dramatically taken a new twist. It is important to adapt to the changing environment by adopting new strategies and approaches when the landscape changes or a process requires readjustment. It takes courage and mental strength to embrace new ideas and actually implement them. Learn from failures. Failure, in most cases, is a source of embarrassment and disappointment, not only to the person but also in the face of the larger society. The negativity that stems from failure detrimentally impacts on a person's self-confidence and self-belief. It may result in negative self-talk and unavoidable doubt in one's abilities and strength. A person with a strong mental attitude is capable of drawing useful lessons from failures and inspiration from challenging situations. They are able to endure moments of turbulent situations with zeal to accomplish the ultimate goal. They must have the conviction to try until they eventually get things right. These are people who do not give up, in spite of the apparent mental torture that accompanies failure. Strong mental attitude is acquired through repeated endurance of unbearable emotional and mental burdens. It is then sustained through habitual, self-testing undertakings through voluntary mind-exercising activities which involve a deliberate decision to take on difficult challenge with the aim of pursuing it to the end. Apply self-validation. Perhaps you have been hesitant and indecisive as a child to bring your rusty, emaciated friend home because your parents would never approve of your friendship with such a dirty and miserable child. You know that is harsh, immoral of your parents, but you do not wish to fall short of their expectations, so you opt to keep inviting some idiots of your class into your lavish home just to impress your parents with perfect company that you are keeping. That is even worse than your parents' attitude towards the less fortunate because your conscience does not approve of it. Entirely strong and intelligent persons listen more to their hearts more than they listen to other people. They obey their conscience and always seek to do what is right, and are ever ready to defend their stand regardless of backlash from opposing forces. They think independently and are strictly open to useful advice only. They do not live according to other people's standards, but individually set their own standards in life. People who are mentally strong and intelligent heavily rely on their own emotions, values, and optimistic dispositions to undertake life's crucial pursuits. They do not look at others with disdain. They are open to constructive criticism and new ways of thinking. They do not lock doors to other people, but selectively embrace what they cognitively consider to be useful. Besides, they utilize their emotional intelligence to convince others they matter in spite of the apparent sense of reason perception of life and chosen paths for self-fulfillment. To grow strong and intelligent mental attitude, it is mandatory to practice the concept of self-validation that helps you to focus solely on pursuing success with a clean conscience instead of bowing down to external pressure, only to regret your actions later. You should figure out a smart way to politely convince others of the likely positive results of your cause so as to maintain good relations with others. Remain in control. I'm pretty sure you have once in your life resorted to fasting, not because you are after some sort of spiritual fulfillment, but simply as an expression that is painfully hurtful. It is, unfortunately, self-inflicted. It is silly time wasting and wasting of oneself. Just imagine the time you threw away by allowing anger and resentment to eat you up and distract you from the many useful pursuits you would have engaged in. Think about the many things you might have done half-heartedly and grudgingly. Do you think they bore fruits? Even if you got some good results, I'm certain the results were not as desirable as the ones you would have obtained working with a calm, relaxed mind and positive attitude towards the work. Everyone must learn to take charge of their emotions and actions. It is never a good habit to relinquish the control of your emotions and decision-making to others. Person's strength dwells in their ability to control how they respond to different events in their lives. You must be able to face challenges and handle them objectively without taking things personally. It is also important to remain firmly on track by staying fully focused on the ultimate prize. Embrace contentment. So you just have enough cash to either buy an apartment or a car. You want both, but can only have one. So you start complaining that you cannot have both the car and the apartment. You end up not buying either of them, but keep spending the money little by little till it becomes insufficient to purchase neither a car nor an apartment. You miss out on both. That is the kind of situation in which some people deliberately get themselves into because of wanting more than they can afford. They are not content with the little they have, so they spend a great deal of their time whining and blaming circumstances for what they lack. They fail to appreciate the little they have because they solemnly want what they cannot get. In some cases, these people end up losing even the little that they have. One very simple way of learning how to develop a strong and intelligent mental attitude is by learning to be content in life. You must appreciate and embrace your past and present achievements and then strive to achieve more. Do not strain your mind by frowning and wearing a somber mood for the bad moments and failures, when there is so much that you need to appreciate and be happy for. Prepare for challenges. Consider a parent whose child is completing high school at the end of the year. The least we should expect of a responsible father or mother is to expect his or her child to qualify for college admission next year. An irresponsible parent and an outright pessimist may from time to time doubt the possibility that their child has what it takes to qualify for admission into an institution of higher learning. And in situations where a child is exceptionally hardworking and destined for excellence, the irresponsible parent has it in their genes to figure out a way to think and face the situation with pessimism. They may constantly burden themselves with devastating feeling about unbearable college admission and tuition fees. They constantly run around whining about the extortionary fees charged in colleges and universities while doing nothing to find funds for the child's college fees. When we prepare adequately for potential situations, we minimize the chances of painful struggles and disappointing outcomes when they actually come to pass. They find us prepared and ready to handle them with a more positive attitude. Essentially, we are firmly in control of our own lives and do not let situations determine we live. We do not allow things to happen to us, but make things happen in certain because of a sharp foresight and prior preparation. Proactive person does not only live by the grace, but also takes the initiative to define their desired future and institutes measures that allow them to determine the course of their own life. Such a person anticipates situations and creatively crafts an effective strategy to deal with challenges that are inseparable with the expected situation. They do not sit back and wait for something to happen. They take actions to ensure such situations do not lead to devastation or disruption of their normal way of life. When a person gets habituated to making preparations and prior arrangements for likely occurrences, they subconsciously begin to accept that life's challenges are normal and are able to grow more and more positive in performing their day-to-day tasks. This is a clear indication that the person's mental attitude is growing tougher. The fact that they also find it easy to creatively devise creative ways of handling uniquely challenging situations in life. Exercise patience. We cannot talk about patience and forget to remind ourselves of one very famous quote: Rome was not built in a day. Truly, there is nothing worthwhile that is achievable in the blink of an eye. Good things take time to materialize. Just like the number of years determines the fineness of wine, the more the years, the finer the wine. A process that consumes more resources, time, and requires more precision turns out to be more valuable than a similar process that requires fewer inputs and commitment. Whereas patience is a quality of strong mental attitude, its expression is a vital means of growing and strengthening it. Strong and intelligent mental attitude is depicted through hard work and endurance. You do not expect instant results, but rather follow a step-by-step procedure in the implementation process towards a worthy cause. It is quite undesirable to have a habit of expecting immediate results, a situation that may be sufficiently tempting to rush things to fruition before the ideal moment. The practice of patience when implementing time-consuming processes does not only strengthen their mental attitude, but also provides room for calmness and peace of mind that makes the whole process a smooth ride. Patience rids the course of action of mental obstacles that would channel negativity in the endeavor to render unnecessarily challenging. Besides, patient soul firmly holds onto the conviction to achieve, and the determination pushes you through. It endears a boldness that fires through thick and thin to pursue your cause to completion. Such is an expression of the strength of mental attitude that hugely serves to engrave the trait even firmly to the mind. Chapter 7. Overcome Procrastination. Here's how Webster's Dictionary defines procrastination: putting off until tomorrow what you can do today, neglecting to act on an instruction, hesitating at opportunity, or choosing present pleasure over long-term success. How much plainer can it be said? Dr. Wayne W. Dyer explains it this way: procrastination is one of the most common and deadliest of diseases, and its toll on success and happiness is heavy. Although procrastination may seem harmless in the beginning, the opposite is true. It is a deadly disease with one purpose: to deprive you and me of a future. Procrastination is a vicious thief, robbing many of progress and achievement. Procrastination keeps people from reaching their true potential. It is a leaky faucet that drains the hope of dreams, drip by drip. In his book entitled Laws of Success, Napoleon Hill makes the following astute observations. Life is a great checkerboard. The player opposite you is time. If you hesitate, you will be wiped off the board. If you keep moving, you may win. The only real capital is time, but it is capital only when used. The other player is Mr. Average Man. Let us call him you. Move by move, time has wiped Mr. Average Man's men, until he is finally cornered where time will get him no matter which way he moves. Indecision, procrastination, has driven him into that corner. People of distinction acquire the goals for which they aim, no matter what they must overcome or how long it takes. These folks can't be stopped. Conversely, procrastinators can barely get started. The choice is ours to make. Take action, make deliberated decisions, and then stand firm by every decision with confidence, knowing that action is better than stagnation. Don't be guilty of not acting. Rather, be guilty over the fact that you acted but made mistake. Forgiveness comes to those who make mistakes, but not to those who heedlessly fail to act. Please do not misunderstand. I am the last one to condone rash, hasty, or irresponsible behavior. I've always been somewhat of a plotter myself, but I keep moving. I thoroughly examine each situation, consider my options, assess those options in the light of my core values, make a wise decision, and then act upon that decision. I do not allow the paralysis of analysis to imprison me. Here are 5 simple steps to take to overcome procrastination. Identify what you procrastinated. Know why you procrastinated. Ask yourself, why do I procrastinate? What is the reason I put off something until tomorrow? Why haven't I taken action? Become serious. How committed are you to overcoming procrastination? What price are you willing to pay? Your desire determines the degree of victory you have in conquering the challenge. Remember, action is the only cure for procrastination. Imagine how you will feel after you complete the task. Spend some time thinking about how you will feel after that task is accomplished. This will enhance your motivation to act. For example, suppose you've been procrastinating cleaning the closet. Take a moment and imagine how it would feel if that closet were clean. If you give yourself a little mental incentive, you'll find yourself motivated to finish the task. Take action. Have you ever heard someone say, "Tomorrow I am going to"? Ogmandino, in his book University of Success, says, "Unfortunately, there is no tomorrow. It can only be found in the calendars of fools." When does tomorrow come? Remember, yesterday's in the tomb, and tomorrow is in the womb. Therefore, we must live in the present, because when we reach tomorrow, it will be called today. Action and procrastination cannot exist together. Either you take action or you procrastinate. Here are some techniques to taking action. Take a decision to live in the present. Think long-term, but take action today. Invest the time to start whatever you postponed. Take 5 minutes of your day and start. Give yourself a deadline to get it done. Tell someone your goal and ask him or her to hold you accountable to that deadline. Imagine yourself taking action. See yourself doing it. Eliminate the negative self-talk from your mind. Replace those negative thoughts with, "I am a person of action. I will do it now. I take action immediately." These thoughts will become reality if you keep them in the center of your attention. Ask someone to take action with you. Get a partner to help you stay on track. Everyone needs support and encouragement. Fear comes to all of us. What is it that you fear? Is it failure? How about other people's opinions? Or do you, like many, fear success? Fear that keeps you from taking action must be confronted. It has been said that fear is simply false evidence appearing real. Remember, over 70% of what we fear never happens. Ask yourself, what am I afraid to do? Not afraid of, but afraid to do. Begin the process of change by making a list of everything you are afraid to do. Then make another list of the reasons you fear doing those things. This activity will help you see the self-imposed fear you place upon yourself. These fears surely aren't valid or true. Sure, they feel true, and you may think they are true, but in all actuality, for the most part, you simply conjured up the fear. As people, we naturally tend to see the negative side of life instead of the truth. Take, for example, the fears you may face at the prospect of starting a new business. It may be a number of things. If we don't make enough money? And if we go bankrupt? What if nobody buys our product? And if the building burns down, and we lose everything? Let's reverse that. And if you succeed? What if you earn triple what you thought you would make? And if you start a franchise? You see, the game can be played both ways. You and I must choose. If we focus on the negatives, fear keeps us idle. Fear keeps people from venturing out of their comfort zone. Fear keeps people from taking risks. Fear keeps people from ever experiencing their dreams. Upon what are you focused? You must put your focus and attention on the things you want, not on what you don't want. The law of focus says, what you focus on will continue to grow. Focus on the negatives, and fear increases like unattended weeds. Focus on what you want, and motivation develops like a beautiful rose bush in midsummer. The choice, once again, is yours. So, where will you set your sights? Your focus will determine the next step you take. It may be hard to believe, but if you focus on what you want and the future you desire, you'll be inspired to action. These are the keys to facing the raw fear and the plaguing procrastination that grip your life. If you truly desire to live the life of your dreams, get a head start in this race by being willing to face your fear, banish procrastination, and embrace the necessary change. And I'm sure we will meet at the finish line. Take a moment and go through each step of eliminating procrastination. Identify what you procrastinated. Know why you procrastinated. Ask yourself, why do I procrastinate? What is the reason I put off something until tomorrow? Why haven't I taken action? Become serious. How committed are you to overcoming procrastination? What price are you willing to pay? Imagine how you will feel after you complete the task. Take action. Chapter 8. Masterminding. The concept of masterminding was developed by Napoleon Hill in his famous book, Think and Grow Rich. Masterminding is nothing but joining hands and minds with like-minded people so they can all learn from each other and brainstorm their growth possibilities together. A mastermind group holds each other accountable for the deliverables expected. Masterminding connects people at different levels of their journeys, and there is something for everyone in each success story, failure and assessment of ongoing progress, etc. Masterminding primarily helps you stay on track towards your goals, with motivation and support from like-minded people following a similar path on the road of life. It keeps you insulated from all the negative people or circumstances in life. The company of like-minded people helps you consider your problems as an opportunity to challenge yourself and emerge as a winner. Few key benefits of masterminding. You get a support system to help you stay longer in tough times, as there is the possibility that someone in the group may have already overcome such a situation. The group is emotionally connected as everyone is on the same journey and really understands the pain of suffering in such periods, so they care for each other. There is a great human connection, as human beings are not magnets. Here like attracts like, unlike a magnet where the poles repel each other. In any pursuit of life, you need a mastermind group. You could be in any business or trade, or you could be any professional, i.e., doctor, engineer, accountant, lawyer, architect, etc. You could be a painter, writer, singer, dancer, or pursuing another form of art. Whoever you are and whatever you do, the significance of masterminding can never be underemphasized. Let's face a harsh reality. Howsoever hard you try to build a new self-image by setting new beliefs, if the people or environment around are not supportive, you'll face a tough time. You know that climbing a mountain requires lots of effort, dedication, the application of strategies and persistence. More than physical, it requires mental toughness. But falling from the mountain doesn't take any effort. Merely by letting yourself drop the ropes, you'll be instantly pulled by the force of gravity towards a deep valley. Similarly, on the personal growth journey, there will be people around you who will not support you. Rather, they might make fun of or ridicule you for your efforts in developing new habits or behaviors. Your endeavor to improve yourself is like climbing a mountain. It takes time, but getting affected by unsupportive people and a negative environment is like falling down, and it happens instantly. If you don't safeguard yourself, therefore you need to be careful with such people and any kind of environment that distracts you or pulls you away from the path of a growth mindset. You now know that, backed by neuroscience, the concept of neuroplasticity works on the principle of changing your environment and behavior. You can change your mind. To put it bluntly, your mindset can never exceed the mindset of people you generally hang out with, and therefore you need to design your environment to the best possible extent. The environment designing process is done in two ways. You need to protect yourself from a negative environment, and simultaneously you need to structure your day and take the time to infuse more positivity into your life. Let's start with how to deal with a negative environment created by the people around us. How to deal with negative people. Who are negative people? Short answer: they are the people who drain our energy when we spend, or have to spend, time with them. The human heart is an intelligent tool, even way more than our brains, and can easily feel the level of energy in the people around us. You might have realized on your own that after meeting someone, you feel very energetic or peaceful at heart. But there are times when, after meeting few people, you start to think pessimistically about your life, your future, about the economy or general environment around you. You tend to blame everyone in the world for anything adverse happening around you. That's the symptom of spending time with negative people who drain the energy from you. Admit you can't run away from negative people all the time, So we need to handle such people in a way that it does not influence our thinking. To be strategic, let's put them into two categories: people we are bound to deal and spend time with and have no choice. These people could be a business partner, colleagues at work, your manager, family, or other close relationships. In most of cases, we have to face these people on a pretty regular basis. Let's call them as our mandatory partners. Of course, if pushed against the wall, one may need to think about whether to keep them as mandatory or not. People we are not required to deal with compulsorily and regularly. By not entertaining such persons, our work or personal life doesn't stop or come to a total halt immediately. They could be childhood friends, neighbors, distant relatives, colleagues unrelated to work, or clients and customers, etc. Let's call them optional partners. Let's first take a look at the second category of people, which is much easier to handle, after which we will ascertain how to deal with the most important external factors of our life, i.e., our mandatory partners. Dealing with optional negative partners. The simple solution to dealing with optional partners is to limit your interaction with them. You can limit your encounters to just greetings or an occasional brief discussion on a random topic at social occasions. You might think that if most people around you remain in a negative state of mind, then with this advice you will be labeled as antisocial. Yes, people might judge your new behavior, but for your own good, you should follow the sage advice that we all know from our childhood days: better alone than to be in bad company. Still, don't freak out that you are being advised to run away from the world and remain in solitude. There is a great solution to this: be selectively social. We know that humans crave love and belongingness. They need the company of others to thrive. But here is the thing: if you sincerely look around, it would not be hard to come across a few people who have a similar positive approach to life to the one you're willing to adopt, even if you don't find them physically. In this ever-dynamic internet age, you definitely will find them virtually. For example, you may search Facebook groups on any topic of interest. You may Google your interest area forums, and there is a high chance that you will find some community or forum in your interest area. The bottom line is not to stay connected with optional negative partners only for the sake of being socially connected. Please remember that the consequences of staying with such persons are far more dangerous in the long run as compared to being called antisocial. By hanging out with such people, you will end up imprinting negative beliefs in your mind or finding fault in others and blaming everything around you. The result is that you will be less action-oriented and behave like a victim of circumstances. The message here is to safeguard yourself from such people. There is a simple rule that can help you identify such people and then decide how much time you want to spend with them. The 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days rule. This rule works on the premise that all living creatures have an electromagnetic field of energy around them. There are enough studies in the realm of quantum physics to show that this universe operates in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. The key is to understand that your body understands the energy fields of other people by just listening and feeling the vibrations in your body when in close vicinity to different types of people. However, a bit of caution: you have to meet a person without a prejudiced mind, lest you treat that person only with preconceived judgments. If you keep an open mind and are fully with that person, your body's sensations and vibrations, maybe in the pit of your stomach or elsewhere in your body, will give you signals whether that person is worth spending time with. Here comes the 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days rule to help you examine the people around you. By understanding the feelings, vibrations in your body, you'll get a sensory signal as to what kinds of people deserves just 3 minutes of your time. Repellent people. With the repellent people, you'll get a sense of uneasiness and a negative sensation, and you won't feel like being around with them. There are other quality people around, with whom you might spend 3 hours over dinner or coffee. Neutral people. They are people who will provide you with a different perspective and thus broaden your horizon. They are not negative thinkers, but maybe they have different knowledge or perspective about life in general, and you can simply learn from such people. Your body doesn't exhibit any negative sensation, but it doesn't show any craving to stay with them for a longer time. Then there are 3-day kind of people, who you admire so much that you would be willing to spend 3 days with them. You want to attend a weekend conference with them, or they could be quality friends with whom you want to go on a long road trip. Attractor people. You get a deeper sense of joy and pleasure with such people, as your body sends you signals of loving emotions. Maybe you start feeling your heart melting with warmth when being with them. The duration of 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days is not strict. Rather, it is symbolic to indicate how our bodies can identify the people who are right for us. Let's move on to handle a critical segment: how to deal with mandatory negative partners. Don't argue with them. An argument with such persons will further feed and aggravate the negative emotions of the negative person at that moment. When you feel the desire to argue, please remember that in most cases, even if you win the argument, you will feel like a loser, because the amount of energy it takes to win will adversely affect other focus areas. Unless you are a lawyer in court fighting litigation for your client or are in a business negotiation where your livelihood depends on winning arguments, you'll not gain much from winning arguments with negative people, except to just boost your false ego. However, if you consciously choose not to argue with such persons and concentrate on your other work, the other person will lose all his or her force. Try this. If you don't argue with such a person, you'll have a sense of accomplishment, or at least peace of mind that you have saved your energy for better productive work. I am not advocating here to put your point across and just accept what the other person is arguing. Be polite, but firm, and if the other person doesn't agree, then no worries, you've nothing to lose except the argument. The above discussion applies to low-impact arguments on random discussions. For life-changing decisions, one needs to be firm, and if the circumstances demand it, don't hesitate to break with such mandatory partners at your job or business. However, you should not use the same intensity with key relationships, a spouse, family, parents, as they are to be treated with more delicacy compared to others. Dilute the negative intensity. Let's look at Jim Rohn's famous quote once more from a different perspective. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. When dealing with negative people, try your best to apply the quote to them and not to you. In other words, do not become the sum total of the negative people around you. Rather, they should become impacted by your positivity and motivated to change their behavior. This is specifically for close relations that form your immediate home environment. If people really close to you are suffering from negativity or pessimism, one of the solutions is to bring positive people or circumstances into their lives to dilute their negative approach. When such people see a different set of human being beaming with positivity, enthusiasm, and a lively approach to future, it might have the impact of breaking old patterns, forcing them to look at life differently. Your close relations might not listen to you, but when they hear other people's views and see them happy and joyful, it might change their perspectives. Let's understand this with the help of an example of a glass filled with water and thick mud at the bottom. What would you do to clean the water of this glass? The simple solution is to pour clean water consistently in such a way that water keeps flowing out of the glass until all the muddy water gets out. You'll notice that the more clean water you put in, the more muddy water gets out of the glass, and in no time, you have clear and transparent water. The same principle applies to negativity. Depending upon the condition or background of such people, the timeline may vary. But yes, bringing more positive people to associate with these close persons will change their negative mindsets. The 33 Mentor Rule. Tai Lopez, an entrepreneur and investor, in one of his TEDx talks stated a rule called the 33 Mentor Rule. This rule is all about how should you spend your time with the people in your life. He suggests dividing your available time for interaction into 3 baskets and then spending 33 of it for each basket separately. Spend 33 of your time with people who are on the lower rungs of progress or behind you in their journey to their goals. It doesn't mean that you spend time with people who have a fixed mindset or are not willing to grow. Here we are talking about helping those who want to grow in life, but unfortunately don't have access to the right support system. As per the rule, 1/3 of your time should be allocated to help such people. Remember, on your journey to progress, you too might have taken support from mentors, so it's your time to grant that support to the people following you. Next, 33 of your time is to be spent with people on your level who become friends and peers. They are people who are growing and are on a similar path as you. Each of your friends is getting different types of insights in their life or business, so you can benefit from the life experiences and the wisdom gained by each of you during the process. This cuts short your learning journey through the power of collaboration of efforts of many people, so you don't commit the same mistakes as others did. The final 33 of your time should be spent with people who are way ahead of you in terms of the goals you want to achieve in life. If you have ambitions of growing way more than you can currently fathom in your mind, you need to spend time with people who are multiple times ahead of you. By understanding how their mind works, and how they perform in their day-to-day lives, you'll expose your mind to an altogether different paradigm, which is not at all possible if you choose to stay with people at your own level. Unless you are already surrounded with like-minded, growth-oriented people, you can easily find online forums as well as physical meetup groups in your area. There is a platform called dodomeetup.com, where you can easily locate a group meeting with a common objective like a book lovers club, a runners meetup, personal growth meetup, etc. The 33 rule works to effectively design your environment and divide your time into the right brackets, so you don't have time to waste time with people whose company will pull you down and hinder your progress. This rule is a perfect segue to talk about the next strategy of masterminding, which is a formal way of putting the 33 rule in practice. Chapter 9. Finding Your Purpose. Out of the uncertainty of finding your purpose, there has risen an industry, a way for companies and individuals to earn money. Firstly, the rise of an entire sector shows us you are not alone in desiring to find your purpose. In 1937, Napoleon Hill published Think and Grow Rich. Thousands of years ago, Marcus Aurelius talks of finding one's purpose in his writing, Meditations. What you face is not new. Billions of others have faced it before you. Beware of paying money to those who say they can help. I'm not saying the gurus, with their courses, programs, and books won't help. Some will. Most of the answers we seek are already inside us. A typical scenario with your purpose is, you already know what you want to do, you just don't do it. Fear could be holding you back, or maybe it's another reason. Also, beware of listening to me. You have paid for this book and I am contributing to the Find Your Purpose industry by giving advice. But before embarking on a guru's course, you could search for the answers to, if you were fearless, would you be earning a living in precisely the same way as you are now? And if not, what would you be doing? From there, set a goal to spend a minimum of 1 hour a day on the answer. Most of us delay what we want until our finances are right, the children have left, or for some other reason. Don't let that be you. Life is short, passes quickly, and changes often. Take action now. Opinions. Limiting factor in pursuing our purpose is the opinions of others. Your parents, siblings, friends, neighbors. They may mean well, they may be trying to protect you, but by doing so they limit you. A person's opinion is a reflection of their beliefs. When they give advice, it is what they believe to be possible for themselves, not what they believe to be possible for you, or what you believe to be possible. I am not suggesting never to seek advice from others. In fact, always seek advice. Rather understand the root of the opinion. Who is giving the advice? What is their experience in this specific scenario? Have they accomplished what you aim to? Are they a positive person? For instance, if your foot was causing you pain, would you ask an electrical engineer to diagnose the problem? I hope not. You would find a doctor and a foot doctor, more specifically, as they are more likely to find the most effective solution to your challenge. The same is true of our ideas, plans, and purpose. Suppose you wanted to become a full-time photographer working for yourself, earning an above-average income. You mention this to your parents, who have always been employed, earning a below-average salary. What are they likely to say? Something like, get a safe job, with a good employer and a generous pension. You can't earn money taking pictures. However, the owner of a local photography studio would be more likely to say, it is possible. I have done it. If you want to earn a full-time income, I recommend you start here. Your parents mean well. They are hoping to protect you from failure. To succeed in following your purpose, protect yourself from others' opinions. Knowledge. One brain can only hold so much information. Yes, some can contain more than others. However, one mind cannot have all the information you'll need to achieve your ever-changing goals. You will likely need others' knowledge to get where you want to go, whether that is because your vehicle has broken down, leaving you needing a mechanic, or because your goal requires specialist knowledge that would take years to learn thoroughly. We've already touched upon leveraging your network to solve similar scenarios. What we'll discuss here is using what Napoleon Hill calls the mastermind principle. Hill describes the mastermind principle as the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people who work towards a definite purpose in the spirit of harmony. No two minds ever came together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be linked to a third mind. In my own words, this is what I believe Hill means. Two minds are better than one. Three minds are better than two, and so on. As long as those minds are working towards the same goal, all want to succeed. There are no underhand tactics. When you're working with at least another on overcoming a challenge, ideas build on top of one another. The result is a solution the mastermind individuals couldn't have concocted independently. Mastermind groups are a breeding ground for ideas. Forming the ideas is only 20 of the solution. Implementing them is where your greatest challenge lies. Being rich is having money. Being wealthy is having time. Margaret Bonanno summary. And so we near the end of our discussion on leverage. Hopefully you begin or continue to apply the concepts mentioned. Leverage is the only way to create generational wealth. An accurate measure of our wealth is how much time we have. Let's remind ourselves what leverage is: using resources, tools, and situations, anything you can use to increase your results' quality and quantity or efficiency. Real-world examples are a mortgage, employees, and hiring a plumber. Once you understand leverage, it can be applied to increasing your time doing what you want, when you want, with who you like. We can improve our time management effectiveness or find others to complete the task. Network can be leveraged to provide you with opportunities before they are advertised, such as a job, the services of a tradesman, and mentorship. Having a network will save you time, as you can use an existing contact to solve a problem, rather than going looking for somebody new. Finally, the last concept of leverage we went over was knowledge. Your mind can only hold so much information. Leverage others' minds to solve problems you don't have solutions to. A mastermind group is an excellent example of leveraging knowledge and leverage itself. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Blaise Pascal. Having arrived at the edge of the village, the master sat down under a tree to rest for the night when, suddenly, a villager came running up to her. The stone, give me the precious stone," he shouted. "What stone?" the master asked. "Last night," the villager said, "an angel appeared in my dream. The angel told me to go to the edge of the village at dusk to find a woman under a tree. This woman would give me a precious stone which would make me rich forever." The master rummaged in her travel bag and retrieved a stone. "The angel probably meant this one," she said, giving the stone to the villager. "I found it a few days ago on a forest path. Here, take it." The man looked at the stone with admiration. It was a diamond the size of a fist. The man accepted the rock and went home. But at night he was unable to go to sleep. The whole night he was tossing and turning in his bed. Something made him feel uneasy. There was something he wasn't getting, and that kept gnawing at him. The next day, at the crack of dawn, he jumped out of bed and ran back to the woman under the tree and said to her, "Master, will you help me attain the riches that enable you to give away this diamond so easily? To be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." Marcus Aurelius' paradox. The very idea of stillness in the modern world is a paradox. Modern times require us always to be doing something, moving up the career ladder, buying a bigger home, taking care of the family, keeping fit. The combination of these objectives fills our days with action. The concept of stillness contradicts this. The stillness says, go in search of peaceful moments, Quieten your mind, be content with emptiness. What at first appears to be a contradiction faced solely by the modern person is a challenge humans have faced since the very start of our existence. When we hunted our food to survive, acquiring stillness was a challenge. When resources are scarce, as they were when we hunted, it would be easier to be continually chasing or preparing for your next meal. Taking a step back may have been the difference between having a full stomach and being hungry. It isn't modern life that makes achieving stillness hard to come by, but our evolutionary behavior. Most of you reading will have the resources to step back and gain stillness for at least an hour a day, which is the greatest understatement presented in this book. Lockdown has proven that days, weeks, and months are not beyond reach from the act of doing. It is thinking that can overrun your time when you are left with nothing to do. Stillness is more about having an idle mind than body. Our body can be active, and our mind still. The paradox is when we quieten the mind, ideas form. It's almost as if space must be filled. The insights that create a tremendous leap forwards often come when our minds are consciously empty. The opposite of doing. It is the silence between the notes that makes the music. It is the space between the bars that cages the tiger. Zen saying, deep thinking. The paradox continues with deep thinking. Although emptiness of the mind prompts new ideas, it is the deep thinking we partake in that directs the flow of those ideas. If your thoughts are concentrated on vehicles, say you are a mechanic, in your moments of stillness, the concepts that spring into the mind will most likely be vehicle-related. The deep thinking we participate in can provide us with stillness. The subject we choose to think hard on will determine if we achieve stillness. I would argue that most of the population spend 99% of their time doing destructive thinking. This is the kind of thinking we must change. To achieve stillness, we must think purposely about the big questions, the questions that matter most to us. Each of us will possess different questions. It is a matter of finding those questions and exploring the answers. Both require deepness of thought. It is a matter of self-knowledge that often is unexplored due to the busyness of life. Pursuing a career and surviving the world stand between us and a deeper understanding of ourselves. The same challenge faces us all. We must sit down and ask ourselves, what do we stand for? What do we believe in? What are we living for? Deep in the fibers of our bodies, we know the answer. Silence. If ideas form when we quieten the mind, and we also need time to carry out deep thinking to force the direction of those serendipitous ideas. How do we get more opportunities to think deeply and have spontaneous ideas occur? Solitude is the school of genius. Edward Gibbon. The silence that is a byproduct of solitude is the perfect time for deep thinking. And the quiet between your trains of thought is a breeding ground for ideas to take a quantum leap. Time slows down in solitude, which at first may feel uncomfortable and strange. However, without break from the busyness of life, one could argue you may go crazy. Solitude is specific. It means on your own. With your significant other or close confidant is not solitude, that is a mastermind meeting. Remove all distractions. Only something to take notes with. A pen and paper are ideal. Be on your own for as long as you can bear. Discover where your mind goes, where you have trains of thought that are not beneficial to the direction you chose for your life. Solitude will bring a greater understanding of who you are, rather than who you perceive yourself to be. To be still. With the busyness of modern-day life, stillness can be elusive. That sentence could have been written at any time in history and would be as relevant then as it is now. To help you catch more moments of stillness, what follows are 5 habits that help me. I will briefly go over them as most have been mentioned in this book or are self-explanatory. As usual, simplicity is a recurring theme. Journal. The best journals are for the writer, not the reader. Useful for slowing the mind and finding peace with yourself. Walks. Walking is a repetitive, subconscious motion. I find it clears the mind. What follows are thoughts not of your making. Along with walking, cycling, the Stairmaster or any other repetitive exercise that requires no concentration are equally effective. Routine. Without a routine, I would get little done. And when I feel unproductive, stillness is impossible. A routine reduces freedom, but it also brings stability, certainty, and order. Excellence cannot be achieved without order. Ensure some of your day scheduled for getting things done. Declutter. We all have too many possessions. What we own ends up owning us. I once heard a rule that I strive to live by. If you haven't used something for 6 months or more, throw it out. Give it away. Sleep. We only have so much energy in a day. We must choose where we give that energy with care. If we sleep less to work more, we will have less energy the next day. Tomorrow will be unproductive, and our unproductivity will continue until we are well rested. Summary. Everything that has a beginning must have an end, and so must this chapter. The paradox of stillness is where we began, the concept of doing less and achieving more, doing less and receiving more ideas. We must go against our reptilian brain that urges us to be constantly doing, a survival mechanism that is no longer needed. The conversation continued with deep thinking. This section put a different slant on some ideas discussed earlier in this book. Thinking deeply provides moments of stillness. It also directs the flow of ideas we receive when the mind is empty. That brings about an all-important question. If you are to think deeply, what are you to think about? The silence we receive from solitude is where we ventured next. Be on your own and think, or, contradictorily, still your mind. Silence can only be achieved from solitude, and solitude means on your own, no one else there, no one. It may feel uncomfortable at first. You will find it peaceful in time. 5 ways to be still finished off the chapter on stillness. They were journal, walks, routine, declutter, and sleep. All of them have been effective in increasing the moments of stillness I experience. From the silence of stillness to the words from books, the skill of reading is where we rendezvous. Read. If you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking. Haruki Murakami Laura was around 5 or 6 years old when her dad owned a hardware store. Often Laura would spend time in the store when there was nowhere else to go. This one time Laura noticed a box of razor blades in her dad's desk drawer. Her youthful curiosity compelled her to examine the box and its contents. Each blade was individually wrapped, like chewing gum. Interesting, thought Laura. Laura's dad saw her looking and told her, "Never take those out of the box." "Okay, they're sharp." "Okay," Laura answered. From that moment on, the razor blades fascinated Laura, and she had to know how sharp they were. When no one was looking, she went back to her dad's desk, slowly opened the drawer, and apprehensively took one out. With her heart racing, she examined it with her eyes until her curiosity got the better of her, and she ran the blade across her finger. Laura was horrified as her skin split wide open. Blood gushed out, and it hurt like hell. As is the case with these types of situations, Laura's dad came back into the office at that exact moment. He saw what happened and grabbed Laura's finger to stop the bleeding. Thankfully, she didn't need stitches, but as her dad was carefully washing and bandaging the cut, he asked with disbelief, "Why did you do what I told you not to do?" Why is this story relevant to a chapter about reading? Laura's dad represents the advice you can receive from books and other sources. Laura is you receiving the advice. Reading is not enough. You must consciously choose to utilize the advice you receive. There will be some experimenting on your part, some trial and error. However, the quicker you implement the advice you receive from those wiser than you, the faster you will reach your goals. Human beings who are almost unique in having the ability to learn from the experience of others are also remarkable for their apparent disinclination to do so. Douglas Adams, Good Decisions. Reading can change your life overnight. It happened to me. I'll be brief as I've told this story in other books. Myself and my parents had recently purchased a hair salon. It was going badly. The turnover was much lower than expected, and the profit was devastatingly a loss. We were a few months deep, and despair had consumed me. I wanted the ground to swallow me up. When looking for ways to find and keep customers, I stumbled upon a man who built a business around helping businesses grow. I didn't have the money for his services, but I did have enough for his free book. His name, Nigel Botterill, and at the time of writing he still helps businesses get and keep customers. In Nigel's book, Botty's Rules, I discovered a book Nigel recommended to all entrepreneurs, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I can still remember the revelation of hope that gripped me. A newfound belief that I could claw our way out of the pit we found ourselves in and turn the salon from a significant failure to our most tremendous success. The 1937 classic changed my mindset overnight and prevented us from going out of business. There have been one or two other instant revelations, none as memorable as this one. Most of the benefits you will receive from reading will not change your life overnight. The wisdom, ideas, and thought processes you encounter take multiple repetitions and some deep thinking to be absorbed into your subconscious mind. Slowly, over time, your thinking is changed. As a result, you will make decisions that bring you closer to achieving your goals. Of course, you must be reading books that align with your goals for this to happen. Most of the time, the books will be non-fiction. However, if your goal is more creatively inclined, say, writing a novel, painting a masterpiece, it can be useful to read fiction to stir the creative juices. World changes. As mentioned in the chapter Learn, the world is changing faster than any other time in history. We must learn and adapt to survive. One of the most useful skills you can possess is getting through information quickly and retaining it. The capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. Ryan Herbert, any of us are taught and developed to read at school. In the UK, we attend two different schools, one from 4 to 11 called primary school, and secondary school from 11 to read. Reading is not taught in secondary school, so most students' reading skills don't progress beyond age 11. The majority go through their entire life with an 11 or lower reading age. To develop into an effective reader, you have to take responsibility for your reading. We are all given the same teaching. Why some develop beyond the level the state system expects is down to their conscious and focused effort over time. Remember, the formal education system is designed to produce workers, not leaders. To create a life on your terms, you must value the ability to get through new material quickly and retain it. Allies. Think of books as your friends, allies, and mentors. When you find a great friend, someone you resonate with encourages you to be more than you are and enjoy spending time with, it is unlikely you only meet that person once and never see them again. People would say, "You were crazy." The same is true when you find a great book, except most people wouldn't call you crazy if you never reread the book. I'm here to tell you the opposite. If you find a book that impacts your life and changes it for the better, read it, at least once per year. It is especially true of those books which you don't understand. When you read a book that makes your head hurt from your ability to understand it, learn what you can, even if it is nothing, and reread it in a year. With the system I will share in the next section, you will be able to compare your level of understanding with every other time you will read the book. The comparison will make it evident if your knowledge has deepened, even with books you fully understand and make lots of notes. Rereading is still vital. You are continually changing as a person. When you reread a book, you are different from when you read it last. What you take from the book and what it puts in you will be different every time you commit to reading it. Most of the techniques I use for reading have been stolen from Tai Lopez. The man reads a book a day. I am not at that level. What follows is what works for me. Experiment with ideas to see what is effective for you, then become a thief. Like Tai, I separate books into 3 categories: classics, how-to, and biographies. Classics are books that have been around for 30 years or more. A how-to book explains how something is done, and biographies are an in-depth look at a person's life. There are thousands of each category. The skill is picking books that will help you reach your goals. There is not enough time in a lifetime to read all the books that have been written and will be written. Choose wisely. When reading, I use my left hand's index finger to keep my eyes focused on the words I'm reading. Without using something to maintain our focus, the eyes can jump around the page, taking in words we have read or have yet to read. Using something to keep our place on the page, such as a pen or finger, increases our reading speed. The reason I specifically use the index finger of my left hand is, reading primarily engages the left side of the brain, meaning we only use 50 of our brain. Our brains are cross-wired. Using the left hand engages the brain's right side. Using the left hand while we read, we utilize more of the brain's processing power than the right hand. If I am fortunate enough to discover an idea that resonates with me, I underline it with a pen. When I reach the end of that reading session, I copy everything I have underlined to Evernote. The benefit of storing notes digitally is we can return to our notes at a later date with ease. Incredibly useful when an idea pops into your head, and you recall it being in a book. A quick search in Evernote, and you have the answer. The structure I use in Evernote is as follows. I have a stack called PD, short for Personal Development, within which there is a notebook tilted books. Each time I read a book, I create a notebook, name the book's title and who authored it. If there is already a notebook for the book, I add the month and year I am reading, e.g., Uneducated by Joe Hinchcliffe, Nov 2020. When I began writing Uneducated, I was reading 3 different books per day, a classic in the morning, a how, 2 in the afternoon, and a biography before going to sleep, each for 20 minutes. This was my daily routine for a solid 18 months. It enabled me to read 6 to 9 books per month. A few months ago I took a break from my reading schedule and noticed my happiness increased. I now read less than 1 book per week, mainly before sleeping. I mention this to caution you from accepting my advice as gospel, or any author or internet guru. Experiment with how much you read, test for the benefits and the negatives. Everyone is different, and we are in a constant state of change. Finding the balance between the level of information you can consume and happiness. However, it will not last forever. Tomorrow will likely be different.